Hi, this review is dedicated to future Deb. That is Deb that is me, but in the future, say 3 or 4 months, when I've totally and utterly forgotten that I ever picked up this book, and I see it on a shelf and I go, hey, that sounds interesting. Oh look, it's fantasy romance series. It is the breathtaking first installment in the new epic fantasy series, The Ashes of Thesma. And I should read more fantasy. I should get back into those epic fantasies, future Deb will say. Much like current Deb said fairly recently. Book 1. See, there's evidence, proof positive that I wasn't imagining any when I picked up this book thinking that I was going to read the first book in the series. And I was wrong. But it's not my fault that I was wrong, because this book lied. It lied here, and it lied inside. This is not book number 1. This is a book number Godzillion. It's got a previous series. Without the previous series, it's useless. And because I'm already in a grumbly, whiny mood, I'm going to say, can no one these days write a fiction, fantasy, romantasy, whatever the hell book without it being a X and Z? The iron and the ember. The storm and the shadow, the flame and the candle. Why can't it be the candles and flame? What's with this and business? I know that the publishing industry goes through these iterations of fashions. I wish they'd get over the sad and the furious, the this and the that, the X and the Y, whatever. In this particular, The X and the Y by Helen Scheuerer, my bird chewed this book. I almost encouraged him. I disliked it so much. So a lot of people have been telling me over the years that I shouldn't be reviewing books when I haven't finished. I made it to page 50. I want those minutes of my life back anyway, and I am most certainly going to review it in the expectation that I never ever want to pick it up again. It's bad. Helen what's her name? Might actually be a good author. I'm not sure, but this book is not well written. For a start, since you don't know that it's a continuation of a previous series, unless you spend your whole life online on BookTok or whatever, which I don't, it's mystifying. The beginning starts with all these expositions and flashbacks. There's no world building, there's no character building. We've got these two people. One's called Ren. The other one, I've forgotten his name. He's a sword sworn. Only they don't call it sword sworn. They call it something else. Fascinating and new and exciting. Whatever. Anyway, Ren. She's a young woman who's bitter and vengeful because her sister got killed in a war. Her sister got killed in a war because there was an evil, evil bad guy king and his nasty, nasty daughter helping him be an evil bad guy king. And they had a war and her sister died. Whatever. We haven't met the sister. It's very hard to care. But sure, Ren does care. Ren used to be called Imran and she used to be a noble, but now she's just a alchemist turned assassin. She goes around poisoning all the nobles because it's all of their fault that her sister died. Whatever. Probably once I was young enough to understand this undisputed, self-loathing, self-destructive persona. She's damaged beyond belief. PTSD is a word that springs to mind quite soon in the experience. And obsession for vengeance is a good, tried and true fantasy tactic, but it's really clear very early on that this isn't about vengeance and it isn't really about fantasy. It's about romantasy, a word that, in my estimation, along with wellness, shouldn't be in the English language at all. But if you've got romantasy in combination with young adult or new adult or semi-adult or whatever these books are meant to be for, I think you could also call it an excuse to print money with poor writing. This is poorly written. So what else? We've got Ren, whose real name is Imran, and she's bent on poisoning everyone. We've got this guy who used to be part of her friend circle before she became a bitter, twisted persona, when she used to live in some college where they learned something, but we don't know because all of this has been established in other books that we didn't know we had to read before we read this one. Poor writing. If you start off a book with expositions and flashbacks and no character building, and No hint that you need to have read previous books. That is poor writing. It is also humorless, dull, and leaden. Seriously, if you're PTSD, destructive, self-hating, want to poison the universe, you could at least make it fun. Ren isn't fun. She is dull. She is leaden. She is about as much fun as having to do loads and loads of laundry on a grey day with a hangover. That's how much fun the first 50 pages of this book gave me. And I'm not doing it again. This review is so that I never do it again. Not necessarily so you don't do it again. If romantasy is your thing, and you like the embers and the flames and the candlesticks and the candle holders and whatever, this might very well be for you. If you want a book where you really don't need to engage your brain in any sense while reading it, this book might also be for you. If you've read the previous series and loved the characters and want to pretend that there's some characters in this book, it might also be for you. Just not for me. Not for me. And not for future Deb. Run away, future Deb. Okay. So the intro full of exposition. I actually Googled this and still couldn't see that it was meant to be in a series. Until I popped onto Goodreads, I didn't know that that's actually what this was meant to be all about. Now, in the final bit, we've got... She wants her revenge on some guy. Her alma mater, college... rebels who succeeded in overthrowing the bad guy. I don't know what they are, and you won't know what they are either from reading this. You have to have read the previous one. So her old Pash has gone to arrest this guy so he can be brought to justice and be seen to be brought to justice. I think anyone over 13 should realise that that is actually a better idea than poisoning him in the dark, but not Ren, because she's pretty dumb. So she poisons him, and the guy who used to love her was all about her. What is Torge? Torge, that's his name. I just found it right here in the last page. You know why I found it? It's because up to page 50, there is no part of this book that isn't either Ren or him, Torge or Ren. That's it. That is all this book is about. That's where romantasy comes in. I've come to realise that that word means that it's basically a romance, 100% set in a world that isn't real. There is no world building. Now, page 50, when I finally decided that I would rather chew my own toenails and continue to read this book, we find out that Torge is going to be forced to bodyguard Ren, because apparently the nobles are all under threat. Could you think it might be because she's poisoning them? I think so. Anyway, because they're all under threat, they need bodyguards, so Torge is going to bodyguard her. Lovers to enemies, foreshadowed in a big way, but we have got 515 pages to get through. That's an awful lot of two people being despicable at each other and being boring for me to read about. We know they're going to get together. So far in the first 50 pages, I can see absolutely no reason to suspect that this is going to be a good experience for anyone. They're not likable. There's no magic. I get that there's that chemistry that makes you want to fall into the sack, but he said he doesn't want to fall into the sack with her. He wants something more long-term. She's got no idea what she wants, and I don't care. She's dull. She's stupid. I don't want to read about her. Thank you for watching this small rant. I'm not saying, by the way, that you shouldn't read this book. This book might be exactly what you want. If you read the previous book and you loved it, maybe read it. If you like this sort of thing, maybe read it. If you want something where you can turn off your brain, maybe read it. Not me. I'm out. Bye.